Hello YouTube, this is Booty, and welcome to my new series. This is going to be called How to Zerg, and basically what I'm going to be doing here is I'm going to be trying to give out some information, some tips, maybe even some tricks, some strategies to help out any lower ranked Zerg players or anyone below Diamond. So if you're watching this and you want to learn to play, hopefully this can help you climb a bit. So right now, I'm in a custom game, practicing a build order. I just say GLHF even though I'm alone, because force of habit, I guess. Doesn't really matter. It's all good. So, this is a pretty basic build order that I've been doing for about 20 to 30 games now. I just recently got back into StarCraft 2. And in my opinion, this is a pretty effective build. It's been winning me a good portion of games. It's good to start with. And basically, what this build order is, it's macro-focused. It's all about trying to establish that early game economy so that you have the resources you need to tech, to upgrade, to all that good shit. Now, I actually did have the build order written down in front of me when I played this game to remind me. This is something you can do in your games if you want to remember a build order. You just take a piece of paper, write down the timings, like at 12 supply you build this and that, yada yada yada. So, that's what I was doing this game. And this is going to be a 3-hatch opener. So, we're going to open up pool first, well, gas, pool, then hatch, as you can see here. You don't necessarily have to do it verbatim in terms of supply. It can be 17 gas, 17 pool, whatever you're comfortable with. I recommend this. It's what I do and it works. It's safe. It gives you the speed. So once the pool is done, we're going to be starting our queen immediately at 19 supply. And then pool as soon... Well, the Zerg speed as soon as we can. Then we're gonna get one set of Zerglings, and then the Overlord. Alternatively, you can do the Overlord and then the Zergling, fucking whatever. But at 2 minutes and 50 seconds, around that time frame, we're gonna be starting our 3rd hatch. And I'm actually gonna put the timings up on the screen, so you guys know, you have a better idea of what's going on. So, this works in just about any matchup, in my opinion. It works in ZBT, it works in ZBZ, works in ZVP. I haven't really had a problem. Now you'll notice I didn't take everyone out of gas. Some people would argue this isn't necessarily efficient. It's kind of matchup dependent. Like in ZBZ, of course, you probably want to leave at least 2 drones in that gas geyser. That way you get the baneling nest and whatnot. In this case, I like to have emergency, a little bit of a stock of gas, at least from 1 drone. And to be honest, 1 drone in the gas geyser is not going to hurt anybody. I haven't really run into any serious problems, at least in Diamond League. I don't know how it'll change things in Masters and Challenger, but it is kind of a nitpicky thing, so whatever. So at 4 minutes, we're going to be starting our 2nd gas geyser, and we're going to eventually put guys back into our gas. Technically, we're supposed to do it around 4 minutes exactly, but I think this was my first game I played of StarCraft, so I'm a little bit slow. And then around 4 minutes, you're going to see we're going to start our roach warren. Now, with this build order, you can do just about anything with it. You can tech into Mutalisks, you can tech into regular roach tech, hydras, lurkers, upgrades, whatever. But the main thing here is to make sure you are droning like a motherfucker as much as you possibly can. Basically, you're going to drone until you have a reason not to drone. Like you're being attacked, or something. You can get some extra queens, or you can skip out on the queens. You can get them for defense, you can get them for spreading creep, or you can do this little trick where you just get a queen prematurely before your 3rd base is done, that way you have it ready when the 3rd hatch is complete. I kinda did that here. but I was a little bit slow on moving it. God. I should be injecting, yeah. Slightly slow, but not a big deal. And you'll notice at 4:20, we got an extra gas geyser, and then we started our lair around that time. And then around 4 minutes 30 seconds, we start our third gas geyser, and then an evo chamber. And as far as the evo chamber goes, you can do whatever you want with it. You can go into melee upgrades, carapace, air, whatever your strategy and your playstyle is. In this case, I went for carapace, because it's safe and it's a little more versatile. It lets pretty much any unit comp early on work. You can go Zerglings, roaches. Now, in this case, I went with the Hydralisk Den. The original build order is actually specifically meant for Spire, but it works for anything, as I've just said. Obviously, you want to try to fill up all the gas geyser as soon as they're complete. I'm getting a macro hatch because I'm floating some resources. That's alright, it helps you spend money, it helps you keep up in production. Now, of course, you want to make sure that you have about 16 mineral drones for every hatch. I think I start the lurker den in this case. I'm getting some roaches early on. Obviously, in a real game, you probably want a few more units than what I have here, depending on what your opponent's doing, so that you don't die instantly. Just some random all-in, or even just basic pressure, because I was pretty bare bones units in this case. I'll show some examples later on. I'm getting Overlord speed, I'm getting burrow speed, all that jazz. And yeah, that's about it as far as the basics go. Start my fourth hatch. Gonna be droning that. One thing to remember about StarCraft, I'm actually gonna take it off my cam. You'll notice that I have overlords planted all over the map. This is to help maintain vision. And it's okay to lose an overlord or two. Not so much early game. That's not ideal, that'll slow you down a bit. But mid to late game, it's not that big of a deal. As long as it's not more than a few at a time. So, as far as the maximum drones go, I personally like to... I don't saturate my fourth base completely with drones at this point. I should be moving these guys over. In fact, I think I do it in the next couple seconds. I have those highlighted. Oh wait, I just clicked it, I'm a retard. So yeah, 8 mineral drones here. 6 on this base, that should roughly be about it. You'll notice I started my infestation pit to get in the hive. A good benchmark for knowing when to start your hive, in my opinion, is around the time you start your +2 upgrades. That way it synergizes. You know, that way once your +2 upgrades are done, you can start your +3 upgrades. Got this Overlord action. And here's my tiny little army. I have these, I just built these for shits and giggles. Got some Ravagers, some Hydras, nice, decent, healthy mix. Getting some Lurkers. Roach, Hydra, Lurker is a really, really good composition in my opinion. Especially for low elo. I guess it works at Diamond too. I just said elo. Fuck it, whatever. The same thing, right? Low MMR, elo, MMR. Obviously, this is StarCraft, not League of Legends, but whatever. And I'm gonna end it right here. Probably move on to another replay later to show you some examples of adapting this build. This is what it looks like uninterrupted. Ideally, this is just a rough idea of what exactly you want. Got all these extra bases going. It's important that you try to get extra bases whenever you can. Try to hit your inject. Macro hatcheries are a good investment if you miss some injects. And you'll notice I'm hovering so much resources. Obviously, I'm maxed at this point, but there is a point where even if you're not master, you're just going to get so many minerals at once, it's going to be hard to spend it. Even if you're going out of your way to make sure all your larvae are spent. And even when you're max, you never want to mix too many injects. Because you want to make sure you can remax easily if your army dies. When your army dies. I half-assed the creep spread in this game. Definitely something to work on. It's not the end of the world. Obviously, because I'm alone in this game, but... this is debatable, but in my opinion, you don't really need the best creep spread. Like, you can get away with just connecting your bases. Even in Diamond, I don't really get punished for it that much. Obviously, if you can micro that into your play, the extra creep spread, you know, that's dandy, but at least from Bronze to Diamond, it's not necessarily required. As long as you're macroing well in every other way, hitting your injects. These overlords, obviously, can help make up for a lack of vision as well. There's my cute little drop. And, I got my +3 upgrades. This is actually kind of funny. I forgot to upgrade this. Obviously, in a real game, you want to upgrade this shit a lot faster. If you're going to be Hydralisk heavy. I guess it's not that bad if you're mostly focusing on lurkers, but if you have the money, you should definitely get that. Because it's a good upgrade. And they buffed the shit out of it recently. And at this point at Hive Tech, you can just go whatever you want. Depends on the situation, whatever your army composition your opponent is doing. If it's a low ranked, you probably don't have to worry too much about adapting your comp. Because most people don't really produce efficiently enough that you really need to necessarily worry about counters. Like, you know, even if your opponent has tanks, you might not necessarily need to make a bunch of Vipers to beat it. I went Ultras in this case. I don't know if it's necessarily the best if you're upgrading missile attacks, but at least I would have this going for me, right? So at the very least, Ultras would be good for tanking. You could go Broodlords, you could go Infestors, you could just go for more Roach Hydra Viper. Roach Hydra Lurker, rather. You can go Infestors. Whatever you feel like, man. That's it for this basic build order. Welcome back. Alright, so this is the same build order I just showed you guys. This was a Zerg versus Terran, I believe unranked. This is Diamond here, by the way. Just to kind of prove my point that this can work. Just my mic a little bit. Alright, so I'm just observing my cute little emblem, reticle thing, I don't even know what you call that, the clan icon. That's Poppy from League of Legends, fun fact. You might have noticed. Cute little fan art I found online. Well, anyway. So I picked this game because I think it's a really good example of using this build and then changing it as the situation demands and adapting to whatever is going on. I'm gonna keep Fog of War on, so, you know, we're not like cheating and seeing what the enemy Terran is doing. It's a little bit more realistic to what would actually be happening in a normal game. So I'm opening up the same exact way. 18 gas, 17 pull, and then 18... Well, actually, I went 17 hatch in this game. You can go 18 gas, 17 pull, 18 hatch. That's alright, it can work. Doesn't matter too much. So yeah, same thing as before. I'm just gonna get my queen as soon as the pool's up. Set of Zerglings, Overlord, Zergling speed. And then I should be pulling guys out of gas. Just as I have enough for the Zergling speed. See? One guy in the gas geyser. Now, this is why I really like getting the Zerglings first. Now, I actually get kind of lucky, and a little bit of a spoiler, but this is actually cross-position, as you can see. So this guy's actually going to have very little time to get his Reaper over there. But in a normal game with typical spawn points and typical travel distances, it's okay to get those early Zerglings in ZBT, because it makes sure you can't get harassed. Now, I don't know why this guy's having his Reaper chase the Zerglings. It's kind of stupid. He should be exploring my base, in my opinion, to make sure he's not being all-in. But whatever. And you'll notice around 2 minutes 50 seconds, just like last time, I get my third hatchery. I got my overlords moving over here, and that way, trying to figure out what's up. Now, for a while, I thought the guy was over here. I didn't realize he was all the way down here. Now, the important thing here is when you're dealing with harassment from like a Reaper, or in general, you never want to get too many Zerglings, unless you're like going to do an all-in or something. But in a typical game, where you're just going to try to macro, get up all the drones, 4 Zerglings is fine to hold 1 Reaper. And then you got the Queens, which will just kind of auto-shove it out of the way. The Reaper can't stand a chance against 1 Queen. And yeah, so at this point I realize he's in this corner of the map. He's got the Cyclone. This is actually where the scouting portion comes into play. So you'll notice, I don't think it's normal for players to get Cyclones in this matchup. I personally don't see it much. I think this guy was actually going mech. But you'll notice I'm splitting off these 3 Zerglings. I actually draw aggro. The important thing is to try not to lose your early scouting Zerglings, because this is what's going to help determine if you need to make units, if you need to keep droning, what have you. So, I'm kind of tinkering along the edge of the aggro range, the Cyclone over here, trying to make sure I know when someone is, moving out to attack. You'll notice in this game, I got the early Overlord speed, with that 100 gas I got earlier. As a result, this does kind of slow down my lair tech, but I was a little bit paranoid this game about possible all-in. So I slowed it down for a while. I don't make too many units though, so that's good. I only got like some Zerglings, a few roaches. To be honest, I could have gone longer, but I wasn't sure if he was going to drop. This is the point where I figure out if he's dropping or not. Now, one important meta thing here about the armory is, in my experience, most people are going to try to do a 2-base all-in if you see an early armory. Sometimes they're just trying to do a clean mech transition for a macro game, but one important thing to remember is that people don't want to deal with Zerg late game. It's really strong right now. Arguably one of the best late games in the game. So a lot of people are encouraged to just try to kill you as soon as possible, and you need to play like that's the case. But you still want to make sure you're droning enough. Now, I started Aspire. I eventually canceled this, and I'm glad I do, because I probably would have fucking died if I had actually stuck with the Mutalisk tech. Because of the Marines and whatnot. So, alright. Notice that even if I'm a little bit scared of an all-in, I am still droning and trying to get all the money I can. And I know I can do this because, notice, all this vision I have, this is what my enemy has. No vision. He, honestly, apparently he didn't even scan once. I guess he's just kind of autopiloting and just doing the build and hoping it works out. Not very smart, in my opinion, but yeah, so this vision that I have lets me know if I'm being attacked, and because I don't see the third base going up, I have reason to suspect that I am being all-in. Especially at this point, I know I'm all-in. So, that's full military production. Eventually, I get my upgrades started, which is great. And yeah, here's the all-in I'm trying to hold. It's 140 to supply to 115. Actually, kinda... yeah. It doesn't look like a whole lot, but just enough to hold. Now, one trick you'll notice is that I'm prematurely firing off the corrosive bile based off of where the guy's gonna be. And where he's likely to be moving. So in that case, obviously he wants to move away, so I'm shooting it a little bit behind instead of directly on top of where the Marines are. You have to lead your corrosive biles. It's important. This is why I really fucking like Roach Ravager early game. In general, it's a very strong and beefy composition. You'll notice that I was being all-in, but I have a big dick, so I get a 4th base anyway. I'm like, fuck you. I mean, he doesn't have vision of it. So I get... oh wait. Yeah, he has no idea this is happening. But I have enough units to defend it, I know I do. And at this point, his all-in failed. It's 80 to 140 supply, he's fucked. And, at this point, I'm just gonna push out. I got the Hydra Den. Even the Lurker Den going. I don't know why, but I keep fucking forgetting the Hydra upgrade. That's hilarious. So I'm scouting with my overlords. Trying to keep watch over where the army is. And I know this is probably where they are, because I lost vision. And I had the overlord over here, suicide. And yeah, I just have too many units, so his siege tanks can't do shit. One good general rule of thumb here is, generally speaking, pretty much all the time. If you ever defend an all-in and you have this much, you probably win. And you can probably just A-move across the map and fuck people up. You don't necessarily need to see their supply yourself to know. Because they have to invest so much into that, and you see them lose a lot of units, and Terran can't exactly easily replenish their army like Zerg can. Especially when they're going mech. It's not like BioWare, it's at least cheap, and he doesn't have that much anyway. He's actually floating a lot of resources in this game. The looks of it. And yeah, that's one example of how you can change your build based off of what you scout. I'm gonna see if I can find more examples to help y'all out. Alright. Here's another example. This is a Zerg versus Protoss. This is another example of scouting and changing the situation. You know, bruh. Staring at my icon again. I did that a lot. Not that I look over these replays. A little funny. So in this game, basically, I suspect that I'm being 2-based all-in. That's pretty much what happens, but I'll go over it later. But it's actually hilarious how weak it is when it actually comes. Okay. So, sorry, I'm skipping through this. There's not much to see. So, this is a Dark Shrine. I clicked on it, and I saw it. I also saw this being chrono boosted, and I saw the early Twilight Council. Again, you know, he has the fast expansion, but people hate dealing with Zerg, for one. So they want to all in, because they're racist motherfuckers, you know? So I'm keeping vision over here. I got the overlords, I got the watchtower. You always want to try to have control of these, no matter what map it is. I didn't have a Zergling on these 2 bases. I should, just to be safe. Now, I see the Dark Shrine. I know I can delay it because it's not complete. I probably should have worked a little bit harder to look around for proxy pylons. I don't really do that this game. Kinda luck out. But I got the spore crawlers coming up because I see a dark shrine. But I'm still trying to follow the build order. But trying to make sure I don't die. Now, I got more than I happen to need. But basically I was trying to predict what he was likely to do. So, basically, I have 3 bases. So I'm thinking, okay, he went out of his way to get the early Dark Shrine, right? So he's probably going to try to do some kind of multi-prong nonsense. So I'm splitting up my army, and I know roaches are pretty good at killing Dark Templar. And I'm trying to cover all the flanks, all the paths that he possibly could be, until I have my lair complete, so I can start my Overseer and then just kind of hard counter the opening. This guy doesn't do anything with his Dark Templar, funny enough. So these end up being pointless, but regardless, it's a good habit. You want to try to predict what your opponent is likely to do. Sometimes you'll be wrong and he'll just be bad or whatever, like in this game. This guy went Mass Adept. He went Mass Adept, 0 scouting. He's gonna get shit on. Because I just made a bunch of roaches. And I still made sure to drone. Once again, it was a result of the scouting I have over here. A vision. Yeah, I'm just gonna kill him. I don't even need to make Ravagers in this game. Because he just made a bunch of Adepts and now he loses. One thing I want you guys to see is I do have overlords on some of the flanks. That way I know where... That way if he does get a warp prism, which he did in this game, I can see where he's gonna drop. I should have had vision over here. Okay, this was kind of bad, but I guess it's okay because I had my roaches split up relatively well. But something to watch out for. And yeah, that's a simple example, but there you go. See you guys later. Have a good one.